us. And my name is Jim Lynch, and it is my privilege to serve as the Executive Director of AWSA, and a pleasure to welcome everyone to this webinar on the traveling administrator. So for those principals that have more than one school assignment, what are some practical ways, to manage all of that? And we're so delighted to have Chase Gildenzoff, who's the principal of both Oxford and Coloma Elementary Schools in the Westfield School District, facilitate today. And, Chase has been recognized, his leadership, he's in his 8th year in Westfield. His leadership has been recognized in many ways. His schools have been recognized, including Coloma Elementary School, just in 2021 was a blue ribbon school for gap closing. So again, Chase, thank you so much for agreeing to kind of facilitate today's session on this topic. And with no further ado, I turn it over to you.
All right, thanks, Jim. And this is a fairly small group, so which is totally fine. If you have any questions or just want me to clarify something, just unmute and go right ahead. That is completely fine with me. If you have a question you want to drop in chat too, feel free. Jim's going to be monitoring that. But again, this is whatever you would like to talk about. I can tell you some things that I do, some things I could probably do better with that. Julie is my colleague, and I'll kind of mention her in a little bit when I get to that point. So don't be shy, Julie, when I call on you. So.
Oh, me shy?
Yeah, no, not at all. So I'll get going here. The bit.ly is right here. If you would like this, there are some hyperlinks in here of different items. There's one that we're going to put back in there when I get to that, talks about the monthly calendar, things like that. But here we go. So just a little bit, just kind of the agenda. So again, if you missed the bit.ly, that's bit.ly Traveling Admin 2022. So just for agenda, I'll just talk about who I am. And the main topics I want to just cover is administrative assistance, technology, setting the tone for a good start to a year, relationships and personalities, and just talking about some boundaries and admitting when you need help. So if I can tell you anything in my 8th year, I've learned, again, Jim kind of hit that stuff, all that. I've learned that if somebody can help you, it's going to go way smoother when you're not in the building every day. Whether your role, I even think of, we have some middle school, high school people here that you may be in one building. That is our high school principal is that. He always thinks of it as a middle school and a high school. They may be connected, but it is 2 different buildings at times. And I think if you have that mindset with trying to solve problems, that'll really help. It really helps focus kind of that, narrow down your problem of where is it? Is this a high school issue? Is this a elementary issue? Things like that. Is it an Oxford issue or is it a Coloma issue? So my story, when I tell you this story, you may laugh, but I actually did not have the greatest experience when I was a child, when I first started at school. So the history behind that is I was a struggling learner in kindergarten. I had a teacher that, this would be in the early 90s. I had a teacher that did not think that I was ready to be in school, is how I would put it, I guess. Come to find out, this is fairly new. I'm ADHD. I still am ADHD. It was something that went undiagnosed and something that I think, as you all know, if you're elementary, sometimes we don't want to push that because kids grow up. Eventually they mature, things like that. But it was not the best start. And I remember my mom going to parent teacher conferences, and I was at my grandma's and coming home and crying to my grandma about how the teacher doesn't know if Chase is going to be successful. And I don't know. And I remember my grandma just looking at her and goes, he's 5, like, just give him some time. So I guess that's one thing that's kind of driven me in my education career is you never know who these kids are going to become. I've had success stories where I've had a child in 1st grade that's a terror. All of a sudden, 3rd grade, I got him up to grade level reading, and this is going great. So that's kind of my big thing. Another piece that is a part of me is my parents are divorced. I was a broken household. So some of those things have really helped me when I sit down with parents. Divorce and ADHD, it is nice conversations when parents want to talk about, for example, I had a parent last week that said, well, I don't know about this medication thing. And I just said, I agree with you. I don't know if medication's the right thing for your child. I take a medicine every day for my ADHD. That does not work for everybody, But what I am going to tell you is there are a lot more options than Ritalin because that is usually the common one that I hear. So that's kind of helped me a lot. And then I was also diagnosed as having no fine motor. And this was kind of the pre-days of PTOT, things like that, where I went to a private Catholic school, so we didn't have that ability. So in a bonus, just so you all know, the doctor told my mom to get us a Super Nintendo for Christmas. Greatest decision ever. Really improved my fine motor. That's what I tell my mom all the time anyway. So why education? I feel that I've had some great educators. I've had some great teachers that have actually all just recently retired in the last couple of years, which I think is a huge hole for us in education. I had a great coach, Scott Hilber, the head coach at Mayville right now. Mayville High School is one of my best friends. And I remember him telling me when he was, when we were in high school, that this, no matter what anybody tells you, it's the most rewarding profession you're ever going to do. You're going to have rough days, but it's the most rewarding. So that kind of drove me into becoming into education. But a lot has changed in my life in the last 5 years, not just COVID, my crazy life. So this is when I used to be a workaholic. I'd get to work at 6, I'd work 6 to 4, I'd go home, I'd take a shower, I'd turn on TV, and I'd start working again. It's the truth. I worked an insane amount, and it didn't bug me. I'd work Saturdays, I'd come in, put a show on, it was fine by me. But now with my life being with having 2 kids, a family, it really hit a boiling point where I realized that I can't do what I used to do. I can't be pulling data, things like that, that I had plenty of time for before. So these are my girls. The older one is Charlotte, the younger one's Gianna. I didn't pick out the matching dresses, believe it or not, that's my wife. But the one picture where I'm wearing an orange shirt, this is why I love that we're kind of past COVID. This is the first event that I've got to attend at my daughter's daycare. It was a luncheon just a couple weeks ago. So I'm very happy to have those things back, and I hope you guys are too. We just had our grandparents' day last Friday at both my schools and had over 100 grandparents at both schools, and it's absolutely amazing. So, but my youngest is a terror. She's a lot of work for me. So that's kind of where I started. It was about 5 years ago where I started looking into, okay, what are ways that I'm not being efficient with my time at work? Because my goal is I need to be in classrooms. I don't need to be stuck on my computer. I don't need to be constantly answering phone calls, things like that. So just a question that I just had, and if you just want to unmute and kind of talk about, but is there an area of your current job that you feel like you just don't have the time for, and something that you want to have time for? Oh, I don't know how I want to do that, Jim. Should I do in the chat, or you're muted? Go in the chat. Yeah, if you guys just want to drop something in the chat, if you have something to add, let me get it. Oh, go back.
Yeah, and I'll keep an eye on the chat. So if anybody wants to add something in chat, but otherwise, please feel free and unmute. I know I'm thinking email, Chase.
Yeah, email was my big one. Email was my big one before I started, and I'll kind of touch on zero inbox.
And now some are coming into chat. So looking deeply into data, trying to get into classrooms and providing feedback. Another one on giving feedback to teachers. Professional reading during the school day.
Okay. Those are all good ones.
Yeah.
And I can touch on, I touch on a little bit of this, but the feedback one, I will give you my best options that I've found in the last couple of years to kind of speed up that process. Because we are Danielson. I don't know what the rest of you are, if you're C6 or Danielson or your own district's model. So we're the minis and the announced. And my goal is if you have a mini, that you get it back within 1 to 2 days. And I can kind of talk about my process and how I've done that too. So to begin, I'm just going to touch on one of the relationships that I talk about is administrative assistants. And I guess I had heard this discussion before about using your administrative assistant as your true assistant. But when I first started, I was the control freak. Only I could do it and nobody could help me. And that's just kind of how we did it. So the first thing was, what did I sit down and do? Well, this is kind of every year now. I review this with my secretaries, my administrative assistants. What are my expectations of them? So honestly, my biggest expectation is I want them to be the first most positive person that most staff, parents, and students interact with. They set the tone. It is amazing to me how some parents, when they're disgruntled, but then they talk to my administrative assistant and they're instantly just calmed down. They are so happy to talk to Miss Roger at Oxford. There is no issue. They're never mad. It's just funny to me. Be able to problem solve, being between two buildings. At times, I do need them to be able to problem solve and come up with some solutions if I'm not there. Prioritize the day, what needs to be done when. Being flexible. Flexible is a must in education. Sign documents and review timesheets. And one of the biggest, when I first started, I used to spend every other Friday and I'd have to hand sign timesheets still because we don't have them on Skyward or anything like that. And I mean, you talking like all of a sudden it's 40 minutes later and I still have not gotten off my desk. So now if you don't have a signature stamp, our district office, the same place they got our board member signature stamp for checks and things like that, I highly encourage you to get one because a lot of the time it's like a building request. Do I even really mind who's using my gym at night? No, I just need to know if it's available and my secretary has access to that information. So stamping it, giving it to me, I glance and then I can pass on. Real big time savers throughout the day. It might not seem like a lot, but it really does. And of course, have fun. So what were their expectations of me? I never asked them that. I never asked, what do you want from me? What do you need me to do throughout the day? And like I said, it really held me back and it really consumed a lot of time. And just like a teacher, I had no idea what my secretary's strengths and weaknesses were or areas that they needed help. And after kind of going through some of this, what I've learned is as a district, we were really weak on PD, on Skyward, and teaching all of our administrative assistants how to use that technology. We had one administrative assistant go to the Skyward conference every year. Well, how is that helping, especially when are they going to come back and present to each other? So things like that really were eye-opening once I started this process. So what I do is I schedule 1 to 2 meetings of the year with each administrative assistant and we give each other feedback. And I have a copy of that, what we've talked about. So with that, the questionnaire link is in there. But what I really liked about this was, and sometimes I just Google different questions just to mix it up. Some are good, but a couple of them that I really, really have enjoyed. Number 3, what parts of my work are most important for you to be up to date on often? So for me, after my first year, my secretaries told me, I really would just like to know where you're at with parents and attendance. And learned very quickly that I really wasn't keeping up the best that I possibly could. So we came up together with a plan for documentation and we have it in a Google Sheet. And we acknowledge that a letter's been sent or a phone call has been made or a parent meeting. So a lot of these questions have really helped. I've had one administrative assistant. This is our 8th year together. I've had Miss Roger at Oxford for 8 years. My other school, I've had 3 administrative assistants. I have the current one I've had as a subsecretary, which has been awesome. So prior to her starting, that was really good. We had a good relationship. And my other secretary got promoted to one of the top secretaries in the district. So that was kind of nice. But I encourage you, just like you would with teachers. And again, the way I view it is you're a team. And if your administrative assistant can help you with something, they gladly will. They really are eager to do that. So I encourage you just to sit down, go through something like this with them and actually give each other honest feedback and say, okay, what do you feel my strengths are? An area that I could a little work on. You'd be very surprised at some things that will come out of that. So with that, what kind of came out was handling truant families, communication, not just communication with them, but how I'm communicating with parents, whether that be with a weekly letter home, things like that, just making sure I'm getting to them in timely manner so that they can get that out properly. The one that I forgot, the one that I added, confrontational parents, they want to know that they're not left on an island, or that simply, if it's a rough phone call, I always tell them, like, just forward it to my voicemail if I'm not available. They don't have to sit there and keep taking notes during a confrontational parent phone call. It's not going to solve any problem. And again, being a team, not just my assistant, but we're a team. We're the office staff. We work well together. And my expectation as a two-building person, my secretaries work hand in hand on a lot of stuff. If one letter is going out at one school, it's going out at the other school. Why redo it twice? So they work very well together, sharing documents, making sure that we have everything we need. But the one part about truancy that I talked about was just that consistency and making sure that they know where we're at in the process, just so I can make sure that we're following everything. This unrealistic expectations. So that acronym KSOMD, my first job ever, I had a boss that said, yeah, KSMOMD, and I remember being like, keep shit off my desk. So his point being like, yeah, make sure you don't get to the point where I get stuff on my desk about you. And unrealistic expectation, your administrative assistant's going to you have to put some stuff on your desk once in a while. Never, ever, ever do I have them send out an email on my behalf. That's unfair. It also creates a little animosity with teachers at times when that happens, because they view that as like, oh, well, why didn't he just send that? And staff issues, and also keeping them informed as much as I can with it being a personnel issue, but they still need to be aware of some things as well, especially when it comes to if it has to do with issues that they're going to have to deal with too. So just keeping that informed. So, and again, administrative assistants, I think, as I mentioned before, I probably underutilized them, to be honest. I probably didn't utilize them enough. So the questionnaire is in there, a couple example questions, steal what you would like. Again, the times that I do this, I try to do in August when we first get back. That one's been not as productive for the simple fact that we're both well rested and you don't really have any, you both feel really good about going into the year. So the really good times is usually January and May or June. I usually get some really honest feedback because those are kind of the craziest times of the year, like, oh, holidays, things like that. So that's why I started doing that. I mentioned professional development, but like I said, Bailey, my former administrative assistant, attended the administrative assistant conference. She said it was outstanding. And I know they had a lot of people attend. And she came back with so many great ideas, some things that I'm not ready for yet, but hey, we may get to that point. But I encourage you to do that. And also getting them out for whatever your platform is. If it's Skyward, Power School, Infinite Campus, they need that PD also, and they're not going to always get it. It's nice to have resources in your own district, but it is really nice to get them out of the building too and learning different things. And again, honest feedback. I'm very upfront, like, hey, this didn't work out well, or wow, really, you're making my life awesome with this. So just being upfront with them. And again, they're not mind readers. So you would be honest with a teacher. You want to be honest with your assistant also. Oh, and the one comment I just made, I feel since I've gotten to know my administrative assistants better and built that relationship, that has been one of the biggest tools to get me into classrooms more too. They're very good about making sure that, oh, hey, I see I have my weekly hey, I see you're going to be in classrooms in about 10 minutes. Do you want to do this quick? Yep, actually, great. Thanks for the reminder too, that I wanted to get into classrooms here in 10 minutes. So technology is either one of the greatest things or something that's going to keep you working all the time. But I'm just going to touch on four main things, as most of you are probably either Google Schools, just some things that I've incorporated that have made me much more efficient during the day. Because again, my goal is to get off of the computer and be in classrooms as much as possible. That is the goal. We're past COVID. We're done learning how to Zoom and everything. So we want to get past that. So the one thing that I picked up at the Midwest, it's it's not the Midwest Google Summit anymore, Midwest Technology Summit, I believe now in the Dells, was I sat in a session, first time, about shortcut keys. And I was watching kind of like, oh, okay, well, maybe that'll save me a couple minutes. But when he put up the statistics and actually show you how many hours you could save, and just by simply incorporating a few keystrokes here and there, and when it's 64 working hours a year or 8 work days, 64 hours in terms of education, that, whoa. So I started looking into it. About that same time, I had heard about Zero Inbox. And Zero Inbox, if maybe not for everyone, some people don't mind having 1,000 emails in their inbox. It used to stress me out beyond. I couldn't even handle it if I got an email at like 9 o'clock at night, things like that. So this procedure really helped me to get to that point. I am not a true Zero Inbox. I'm about 5 emails is what I like to leave in there just for me throughout the day, things that I'm working on, or just a reminder. But by incorporating these together, and there's some shortcut keys here that you can click on, but I'm just going to open. Oops, I got to move that. I want to get over to my email. So if I'm in my email, so a couple things, and I'll kind of touch on that slide here in a second. So talking about, go back. I'm going to talk about Zero Inbox, and Zero Inbox, if you just get it down to the 4 Ds, delete, delegate, do, defer. Though if you just have that in your mind, every time you open an email is this delete, delegate, do, or defer, it will insanely cut down on the amount of emails you are. The other thing is, if you're that person that gets to work in the morning and you delete 12 emails because they're all junk, take the time and unsubscribe for them because they don't stop and they'll keep coming every single day. Templates is something new this year for me that I'm trying, and I'll show you an example. So what I'll tell you about a template is if you have an email that you're consistently sending out, for me, it'd be like an office referral where I just want to communicate with the teacher and let them know. If you have something like that you're consistently sending out, then I'll show you template, and it may be kind of a game changer for you. And again, schedule and send as much as possible. I'm a firm believer that if I need to meet with a staff member, I do not send them an email at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. If I want to meet with them the next day, I schedule it for 8 a.m. just so that they're not stressing, because the moment you do that, they're going to walk down and want to talk to you anyways. So with that, so in my email, a couple things. So some really nice shortcut keys, but this in Gmail, you have to enable, and it's in the settings, somewhere in there. But if you hit shift and then the question mark, this screen will pop up and it'll show you all the possible shortcut keys that you can use. Again, these have to be enabled. So this looks like a lot. I don't use all these by any means. I'm just going to show you the ones that I feel have made me very efficient and really cut down on, again, seconds turn into minutes, minutes turn into hours throughout the day. So for example, if I'm going to start an email, if you click the letter C, it opens up new email right away. So very nice. I don't have to actually use my mouse. I can add, who am I going to talk to? I'm going to add these people. If I don't have a group established, I create my own groups. That I like to do that. We have district groups, but I create my own groups because I add people like CISA employees, things like that. So if I have my group adds everybody, okay, well, I'm good to go. I can start typing, blah, 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 blah. Some things that you can do. I don't want to send everybody an email. I just want to send it to myself. Chase, Trisha, and Allison, my secretaries. Test email. So when you do this one, how many of you have typed the email and said, oh, no, I didn't want to hit send quite now. I've done that. So as you're typing, I finish my email, I hit control and enter, and it'll send an email. Well, I didn't want to send that. Click the letter Z and it'll bring it back. That has saved me a lot of time and a lot of frustration sometimes when I accidentally send that email that I didn't want to. That's one that I use quite often. Let's see, another one. So if I'm just going to, let's say I get an email from so this would be something that I would either call a due email, or I just want to answer right away. So I open up the email. Hey, Okay, sounds good. Control enter. I've entered it, but now do you want to delete it? And some people, I'm a deleter. Some people are archive people where they put it in that archive and it just disappears. You can do either one. Archive is the letter E. I'm a deleter, so I hit shift and then the number 3 and it deletes the email and it's gone out of my inbox right away. So I've deleted it. If I got an email, let's say, all right, F, I want to forward it to that person. Can you take care of this? Or could you help cover somebody's classroom? Could you do things like that? Control enter, shift 3, because I've already delegated that task, things like that. That really, once I started, I came in on a Saturday. I think I had like 800 emails. I stayed here all day. I deleted, deferred, delegate, or did something with it. And I was down to 2 emails. And ever since then, my days have just gone so much better. I know when I get to work, I'm not overwhelmed. I know that any new email I just have to take care of right away. A couple that I keep here just for now, because I got to make some notes about fire prevention week at one of my schools, things like that. I haven't deleted those yet because I just want to follow up with somebody and make sure that I have all the information, things like that. So that's Gmail. Like I said, those are the big things that I've done. Oh, templates. I was going to talk about that, wasn't I? So templates, if you open up a new email, it's the 3 dots over there. Templates is right here. So here's an example. When you click it, you have to create one, but here's the student referral one. Hey, so-and-so received a referral. I just wanted to let you know they received this many points, bringing their total to this. The referral resulted in, what's the consequence? And I just delete and edit those. So that's something new for me that I'm kind of learning. Like, are there more, am I sending emails so often that a template would help me? That's kind of nice. I do know at the high school level that some of my colleagues are using this, and they said it's been a real time saver for them because they have stock emails with like coverages for different events and stuff, or like staff leaving early for football games, things like that. So that's been kind of nice for them just to have a stock email that they refer to.
And
Let's see.
Chase,
Yeah.
Jennifer was asking, can you remind us, what did you hit to get
Oh,
the shortcut?
Yep. It's shift and then the question mark.
Thank you.
But I know that in Gmail, I do know, like, how do I put it? In a Google Doc, the shortcut keys are active already for like if you want to bold something or center. In Gmail, you have to enable them. I'm just drawing a blank. It might be under advanced, but oh no, here it is. It's on the very first menu when you go into your settings. If you scroll down, keyboard shortcuts, you just have to turn them on. But like I said, in a Google Doc, they all should be active right away. So if you wanted to, and there's different ones you can use to bold or to center things like that. There are those 2. And again, I picked those up at a technology conference, just something that I really enjoyed using. But yes, I will tell you that the inbox ones definitely speed up a lot of time. So Google Calendar, again, the one part that I think stuck out with me was my calendar is not just for me. I always was under the assumption when I had my personal calendar that was just for me. I need to know where I need to be. But now it is really convenient. I work with Julie. It's really nice that I can pull up Julie's calendar, and if I want to coordinate a time for us to meet, things like that. But my assistants use my calendar. If there's a truancy meeting that needs to be scheduled, they just schedule it now. I don't, if I'm free, go ahead and schedule it. I'll make it work. So having that ability, it really, really cuts down on that double checking. They're walking over like, hey, can you just go ahead and add it to my calendar. We'll be fine with that. I started putting more personal things outside of work hours too, just to help me. One thing that I do that I think, oh no, I didn't have my calendar over there. One thing that I do that some people do not, I'm not very good with the notifications. So if you're one of those people that you don't mind that little thing in the bottom that says, hey, you got a webinar right now, I schedule a lot of things to come out like if I'm going to schedule a new event and I need to, so a lot of times this is like my kids' doctor's appointments or my doctor's appointments. So I remember I change my notifications to send me an email because I'm a zero inbox person. That really helps me remember that. Or I had it send me one an hour before this webinar. Hey, just a reminder, you're also a webinar. That just helps me. I changed it from notifications to emails. It really, again, things like appointments, meetings, that kind of stuff, or one that I do for every meeting that's a truancy meeting. I have it send myself and my administrative assistant an email. And when it comes there, it says in the line, print attendance sheets for principal, just so they know that that's when they get the reminder. So we always are on the same page. Usually it's prepared for ahead of time, but things come up too. So that's what I do with my Google Calendar. That's really made me much more efficient. And also, again, I don't miss those things like, oh, you have an admin meeting at 10 o'clock and we're wondering where Chase is and wondering what happened. That's because I don't do the notification. I just, for some reason, I don't notice the notifications. Keeping up to date really helps in the long run. I think you all get busy, but especially your special education director will really appreciate it when she's not the only one covering IEPs as those timelines come up. So it really helps if you keep your calendar up to date for them. But again, I put in there, I do the reminders via email instead of notifications. That just works out better for me, but it's because I keep my inbox small and that does not faze me. So one that's become fairly popular is Google Chat. But I'll start with, I think Google Chat becomes more overwhelming than email if you're not controlling it, because I only allow certain people to Google Chat with me. One of them would be Julie, another administrator in the district. I would let Julie Google Chat with me. I would let my administrative assistants. I don't let all my teachers do it because, again, it becomes one of those things that you got all these boxes open and then you're not keeping up on it. So if it's something quick or whatever, they can just send me an email. I like it for the fact that if I'm in a meeting and there's a parent phone call and they want to just let me know, hey, this parent, and all right, just tell them I'll call them back. It's just kind of nice so you have a heads up before things like that. It's nice when you have a quick question during COVID. It was really nice just to have our nurse on there that we could communicate very quickly instead of, because she's all over, trying to get a hold of her on a phone, things like that. So again, it can be a very important, quick tool. But like I said, it can be overwhelming at times. It kind of bugged me at first until I started to really control it. It really allowed to get things out fast, minimal interruptions, and really has become one of my favorite tools. It allows me to get information really quick, especially when, for example, our special ed director is special ed director for the whole district. Some days she's at the high school, some days she's at West Elementary, some days she's at Oxford. It's a lot easier for me, instead of trying to call her, just to go through the chat and then she can get me information. I needed a child's BIP today. Google Chat, it was with me in 1 minute. So it was really nice to kind of do. So just kind of another discussion question was, how do you plan out a typical school year? So before the year starts, how do you go about preparing or knowing what you want to do for the school year? So some things to consider, I guess, when you're really looking at school year, and I'll talk about my 4 big ones, but I think these really help me set a good tone for the year or have a good plan going into. The number one's the weekly email. Some of you probably do Friday focus. Sometimes some people call it. I do a weekly email and mine's always on Sunday. I like going into the week having all the information. That's just like when I like to send it out. But just an example of one of mine, I do it in a Google Doc. The high school principal does his in an email. I like doing it in a Google Doc because it's a lot easier for me to look back at last year and find something like picture day schedule that I needed last week. I have the Google email from last year, so it's nice. So I just share this doc. I make it view only so nobody can edit it. But this is just an example. I highlight when my meetings are so people know if I'm going to have a parent meeting, things like that. This was towards the end of the school year, so we had our different items that teachers need to fill out, evals, summer reading, maybe some jeans days, things like that. And also within there, one thing that my staff really loves that I started doing was, if you don't do this, I do encourage you to, was create what we call the master hyperdoc for our school. If you're doing that, great. If you're not, I highly encourage you just to possibly take a look at this one. This was one thing that I know Bailey, a lot of other administrators and their assistants did talk about, was having a document like this. This makes my teacher's life a lot easier, and it makes them very happy that they don't have to search the district website for any of this stuff. So it's made us much more efficient, and allows us to really, they know where everything is now. And it really, I refer to it, all my staff members know where it is. So that's been very helpful. But the weekly email, the one part that I always think is important is the first paragraph. I think you should always talk about your weekend, what you're doing with your family, things like that. It humanizes you. People start to see you as not just the principal. I've had a lot of staff that comment on that and say, hey, it's really nice to know what you guys did and stuff like that. So it's a good conversation starter too for going into the week. You can talk to them about their weekend. Let's see. As I said before, I always keep the past years. I think that's been a really useful tool for me. Helps me refer back to. That KPI is my first superintendent said, KPI, keep people informed. If people are informed, they're happy. So a weekly email is a great start to that. And like I said, I send it on a Sunday. I tell my staff they do not need to check their email on Sunday, but at some point on Monday, I think you should sit down and read it at some point, just so you're aware of what's going on. Locking in time, Joe knows the story. I was not a believer of this. I thought, nah, principal's day is too crazy. You can't set your own schedule. I will tell you, since I've set my own schedule, I've been much, much more productive in the last, probably the last year total. Now, I started it last January. It makes me so much more available to get in classrooms, to actually know when you're going to do things. So I did include Joe's article about it, but my schedule, I'm a huge Google Sheets person, as you kind of see. But here's my schedule. This is what I kind of talk about. I do get to work early. I'm a 6:30 arrival. I'm a 3:30 departure though, because I got to help get kids from daycare at times. But it's really helped me just kind of check with my lead teacher, the person who's in charge when I'm not there, schedule out minis, things like that. It is really, if you haven't done this, it really does focus your time a lot. And it actually shows you where during the day. A feedback I got from staff was about, this was a couple years ago. They told me they thought I was in the lunchroom too much, which was kind of surprising. That, like, really, that was kind of odd that you thought I was in the lunchroom too much. But their point was, it's kind of nice to know that after I drop my kids off at lunch, if you're in your office, that I can ask you a couple questions. So that was it was kind of nice. So that's why I try to put lunch recess, but I also block in the first 15 just so that staff can actually stop in and talk to me. But yeah, the locking in the time really has, I'm a believer now. It really did change how I approach my day. Committees, this is something that I think all of us are doing, but once you put it on paper, it does kind of add a little bit of ownership. Whenever you need help with something, you know you're going to get help. It's either some people are going to volunteer, but just simply having a committee list and asking people to sign up has really cut down on sending out that email, things like that. So if you're not sending this out, this really has helped our school. So this is the start of this year. We have some different things already on there, what we're doing with bulletin boards, things like that. If you don't have something like that, I think you're doing it anyways, but it's really nice just to have it on paper. Then everybody knows kind of who to go to or offer suggestions. I don't have people sign up for X amount, just because I know people with different points in their life can do more or do less, and that's okay. So the master monthly to-do list, this actually, it's really funny. This actually was an assignment from our school board, and I was like, oh man, this is so dumb. But it was really funny. So we did this, and I was telling Jim before this, and then also sent this out, kind of a similar thing a little bit after, and I was like, oh, well, okay, maybe this is gonna work. So this monthly to-do list thing, the whole point was, the board member at the time was ex-military, and I forgot what it's called in the military. Maybe somebody will know. But if you were to die, there is a document that tells exactly what that person does so that you would know. That's kind of what they were shooting for. And now that I've gotten to that point, this is like my go-to thing each year. And I add to it, I tweak it. I do in Google Sheets. I like having the check boxes and kind of go. But as I go through each year, I've kind of added to, adjusted, and also on the building administrator checklist too, I've kind of gone through and picked. But it's been really nice to just kind of give me some idea of, okay, in July, this is some things that I want to accomplish. And then if August and September are usually my biggest list. Usually it's just the way it goes. But it really has cut down on a lot of things, or things you remember or you forget about that. Oh yeah, I got to remember to do that. So my point with that is if you are planning out your year, this is something that I would encourage you to start, because it's made me, planning wise, has made me much more efficient, that I'm not constantly looking for something or having to remember it. And really something small like just having the monthly fire drill. We all get to that point where we forget to do it. So it's just really nice. So I refer to this every week, just kind of making sure I'm following what I need to, things like that. I have the example in there. If you want to make a copy of it, go right ahead. If you need help with the Google Sheets part, just let me know. I'll gladly help you with that too. It's probably one of my favorite tools to use is Google Sheets. But so the next part just talks about relationships. So how do you build these? Well, the one part I just talked about is discovering your true colors first. And we did this a couple of years ago, and Julie actually did the presentation for us. And it was really eye-opening, and I'm hoping to do it again with my staff this year, just because it's been a couple of years. But just talking about what's your personality type. It really was kind of funny how you think somebody's a certain way, and then you go through this test. I'm a big Marvel person, as you could tell. So I kind of talk about the greens, the oranges, the golds, and the blues. But like I said, we did it a couple of years ago. It really allowed us as a staff to really identify and kind of work well together. I call myself a blue-green. I don't know. I haven't done it in a while, so Julie's going to help me out. But I have a quick down and dirty one. If you want to do this, it's just kind of a quick little test. And it's really nice if you're looking for a nice staff meeting thing, just to do a team building exercise. It's really nice. This one's very quick. It just kind of gives people an idea of where they fall. It's very nice. And like I said, staff really enjoy this one. It's not something that I can say, it's not like every year thing, but it's really nice just to kind of help get on the same page. And then we also learn what kind of communication style we all have. It was, like I said, with our staff, it worked really, really well. We're due now. It's just been a few years, so it'll go well again, but something that we definitely enjoyed. But it really helped. It really helps staff to kind of see other people in a different light, I guess I would say. And Julie said that I could name drop her if you want more information. She's done this PD. She will gladly assist anyway. And so I guess just kind of the last discussion question that I'll start wrapping up here is, as an administrator, you build a relationship and connect with all staff members, but are there certain relationships that you feel you should prioritize over others? That may sound awkward, but I'll kind of get into my point of it here in a second. So in my current role, I'm the building principal. Each school, when I am not there, has a lead teacher. I've had the same lead teacher at Coloma for the last 8 years. Oxford, I've had 3 different lead teachers, from a retirement to one of my teachers getting a principal job to a new one this year. So with that, I'm very upfront with staff about, in my current role, I'm going to have a different relationship with the lead teacher than I am with some of you, for the simple fact that some conversations I need to have with them are more confidential than others, because they deal with some things that other staff don't have to. So right away, the lead teacher is probably my top relationship. We meet every day that I'm here during their prep. 5-10 minutes might be a long meeting, might be short. As I refer, they're my right hand when I'm not here. I need their ability to be blunt with me, and I tell them that I'm only here half the time. I need you to be blunt and tell me if there's some things that we could work on, or if there's good things going on too that we can kind of promote. They help me, they call me out on things, and they also keep me informed. The other one, my admin assistants, my left hand, I refer to them, keep me on task, make sure we're staying on top of things, whether that is attendance, whether that is communicating with parents on different events coming up. And they also give me the ins and outs of parental relationships. They know the parents better than I do most of the time, to be honest. They have a different relationship with them, so that's always key. Other administrators too, it's as I always say, a good coach is a good thief. So if there's another principal that's doing something that I could incorporate into my buildings, great. If I can ask them, that's awesome. And also, some people just don't understand your job, so it's really nice to be able to talk to somebody that does when they've actually done it. And I just have this saying, so this talks about, not doing it alone. You can't do this job alone, but if you think you can, you'll be just that, alone. So one slide that I didn't put in here was just kind of talking about making sure that you're reaching out to staff, because you always are shocked at times who can help you or who wants to help you. But with that, those are the top ones that I build, but also still fostering relationships with other staff. The weekly email, like I said, you'd be surprised how many people can relate or begin to see you in a new light just by simply you talking about your family or your weekend, things that are going on. 10-minute meetings. This is something I started a couple years ago. I schedule these every quarter, and all it is it literally is a 10-minute meeting. We come in, I set a timer, and we just talk. And I just say, how's your year going? Things like that. It's been really, really nice, and I don't have a set agenda all the time. We just set a timer and we just talk. And a lot of the time it's just me listening to hearing what they need or things that we can work on. Honest and timely feedback. Like I said, with evaluations, once I started creating my schedule, I'm much more efficient at doing an observation and getting them back within the week. And I know staff really appreciate that. I have a couple staff that I've hired from other districts where the one tells me that I'd get observed. I wouldn't even get that feedback for about a month. So it's amazing to me that you do in a week. So that one's been big too, just getting them the feedback, because that's always nerve wracking for them. One section I didn't put in here was promoting leaders. So I think encouraging your staff, if you have somebody that you think can be a good principal, be a good director of curriculum, I think it's important to promote that. And something that I've done where I actually write it into their evals at times, where I put, hey, I really think that you should pursue a degree in this or a master's in this. I think you'd be a great fit. It's really gone really well. I'm up to my third person that's got their principal license now. One former employee that's now a principal in the Dells. So that's really nice. And I know with staff shortages, you never want to lose good people, but we also need good leaders out there too. So it's really, really important to continue to do that. And with that, just to kind of lead into boundaries, I think it's important that you sit down, whether it's if you're just you or with your significant other, to really figure out what boundaries you should have with your job. Mine was email, and my wife let me know it after we were married that I was on my email too much, things like that. And now having kids, I have a certain point in the night where I don't check email. It's 5 p.m. My staff know it. If they really need something, they just have to text me if it's really urgent. Took the work email off my phone, which some people tell me is impossible. It's not. You can do it. There's also some apps, if you don't like that, there are some apps that can silence the notifications from your work email. I have a couple staff that do that after 4 o'clock. It silences all notifications so they don't know if they've gotten a new email. Schedule out some events for yourself. I think everybody's pretty good about scheduling events for the family. This is mine every year. Everybody knows that Chase takes the Friday after the NFL draft off. It is well known on my staff. It is actually very funny how some of them talk about my draft party and say, hey, how'd you do at your draft party? Did you make any money? And we bet on picks. I don't know. It's very funny though, how a lot of my staff now ask me about that, but that is the one day that my staff know that I'm unavailable. taking a personal day for myself. Let it go. If I can encourage you to do one thing, this is one thing that as a young administrator, I struggled with. Now I'm at the point where I have some techniques, things like that. But you have to research what works for you, whether it's yoga, audiobooks, playing with your kids. Joe talked about this when I was in Mastering Leadership Academy, being a well. You're a well that people draw from throughout the day. They're taking water. Not everybody's bringing water back all the time. So you got to be careful that you don't run dry. So I encourage you just to set those boundaries, whether it's by yourself or with your family, just so you have those down. I think that's really allowed me to work out my current job and stay less stressed. Because in my current role, I literally am half. So 189 days, half of that is at one school, half of that's at the other. So when you put that in perspective, that's a lot of days you're not in that building. So that's really helped me a lot. And with that, just want to say thank you for everybody that comes. I put up my cell phone there. You can text, call, email, whatever you'd like. If there's anything in here that I went a little fast, just let me know. I'll gladly do a Zoom with you one time, just to walk through it, especially some of the technology stuff I know. So